Hi everyone, my name is Lauren, and in this presentation, we'll be talking about specific components in the Arizona Constitution. We'll first address what an initiative and referendum is, and then we will move on to how these two components are created, how they're similar, how they differ, and the pros and cons of each. Finally, we'll talk about direct democracy. When the Arizona Constitution was created, it was aligned with the progressive movement. This movement yielded citizens who wanted more control over what became of their government and laws. The key word here is more. They did not want to settle for only what elected officials decided. Initiatives were a result of this movement. An initiative is ideas that express what citizens want and do not want written in their constitution and acted upon in their state. Referendums were also a part of this progressive movement. Referendums are when citizens have the opportunity to decide on legislators' ideas. A referendum is like a rebuttal. Citizens in Arizona wanted to be able to dismiss a law that was the doing of legislator. They wanted to have this option if they did not agree with it, rather than just going along with whatever was proposed. We will now talk about initiatives and referendums and how they were created. Initiatives. Initiatives are created by the citizens. Citizens start a petition to rally their initiative forward, and the goal is to appear on the upcoming ballot. Citizens create initiatives for either the Constitution or the laws that govern them. There is no criteria for who can start an initiative, and there are close to no guidelines. Citizens should stick to one main goal to provide complete transparency about what they're wanting changed. And if wanting to contribute to a law, then they cannot go against the Constitution at any level. Once completed and turned in, the initiative is shared with those who will be able to vote. If the initiative is signed by enough of those people, then it will be added to the ballot. This is not a simple task, and there must be enough evidence to move the initiative forward. Referendums work in almost the same way when trying to edit the Constitution. Legislators are the ones coming up with the idea, though. This still does not mean they're calling the final shots when the ballot comes around. Citizens still have the opportunity to refute them come voting time. Now we're going to go ahead and compare and contrast the two. How are they different? Initiatives are entirely a people's process. McClory said this in 2010. They have different ways of getting the job done. How are they the same? They both have a chance of being shut down by citizens. They involve a vote and they revolve around the state constitution or state laws. On the previous slide, I bolded who the participants are in each the initiative and the referendum, because this is where one of the major differences come into play. However, citizens control the ultimate course of action for both with a vote. The initiative process is also more straightforward, while the referendum process has different paths that can play out. If we were to look at who was more effective at making change happen with these processes on the table, legislator would still be the winner. Now we're going to talk about the pros and cons of initiatives. The positives of initiatives include opening the door to more voices and opinions. There is an inclusive aspect to initiatives that brings more people to the table. Their needs and wants are heard and sometimes prioritized because of the possibility of the initiative. The negatives of initiatives reflect more on what can be missed or potential fallbacks when citizens are making the suggestions. To put it simply, citizens may not be as informed as legislators. If we compared the initiative process to a research project, we could say that these suggestions are not necessarily peer-reviewed by people who work in government already. Citizens may also not have what it physically takes to support their initiative. Power can ultimately fall into the wrong hands because of this. And this, we're really talking about like expenses and resources. Now we will talk about referendums and their pros and cons. With the referendum, there is a chance for a major power shift. Legislator or the governor may hold the power over citizens at first, but then citizens get a stab at it to determine if it's really what people in the state of Arizona want. Legislator can use this to benefit them as well. They may not want citizens to lead the way when it comes to certain topics, or they may want to use the topics to draw attention to matters. Negatives can include an increase in the time and money that goes into changing the Constitution or other factors, like what's being communicated and all of that. Citizens are initiating a debate and concept that will ultimately need to be voted on. This takes time and money. Finally, we will go ahead and talk about direct democracy. Direct democracy, in the most literal sense, removes the middleman. When talking about Arizona, McClory, 2010, states, few states give their citizens as much power. This real and sense of power is what contributes to Arizona's sense of a direct democracy. Citizens in states like Arizona have found ways to morph the ideas of direct democracy into the framework that is present. The United States has a representative democracy. A majority of the time, someone with specific qualifications speaks for and summarizes a group of people's wants and needs. Of course, there's the risk of other influential factors and what is being communicated by citizens getting lost in translation. A complete direct democracy is not practical in the United States in its current form, but that does not stop from citizens from supporting and encouraging aspects of it. Citizens in states like Arizona have found a way to do this. What questions do you have for me?